The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions and now are entering Dynasty conversations because they reached the finals 3 times in a row, and now 2 times they have won the Stanley Cup.
Before we get into each team respectively from the Oilers and the Panthers, let's just overall react to the Stanley Cup playoffs, but more importantly, the finals. Like, to me, yes, the finals, the way it started, it should have went 7. Obviously, whatever, the games for the most part, except for these last 2 games, were entertaining. Yes, I understand there was like a 6-1 drubbing in there. It was still fun to watch in a way, right? But the way it started, I wish they finished that way. But at the end of the day, it was still entertaining, right? We saw comebacks from both sides. We saw 2 of the fastest goals to tie a game late to force overtime. First was Corey Perry, which was the fastest, and then it was Sam Reinhart in game 4, which was the second fastest.
You mean latest? If it's like at the end, wouldn't it be like the latest goal to tie it?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So like it's obviously not fast at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I meant like the latest, and it happened in the same series. Like everybody would have thought, oh, Reinhardt's was probably the latest to ever happen. No, the latest already happened in the same series, right? So on the entertaining side of things, did it live up to the hype? I would say yes, because there was a lot of hype heading into this finals. But overall,
when you're looking at it, like at the end of the day, when I'm looking at this series and obviously last year's series, there's probably same number of games that are like entertaining back and forth, and obviously like heavyweight bouts essentially.
Yeah.
But the difference is that last year's ended off that way. This year started off that way.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the end of the day, 3 out of the 6 games were like insane. 3 overtime games, and obviously in those overtime games were like literally comebacks to force overtime, and like you mentioned, Reinhart forcing overtime late and Corey Perry forcing overtime late as well was a huge factor. But then there were also 3 legit blowouts where Florida was just the more dominating team. And to be fair, when you're looking at it, and I'm reacting to the series, if Florida Panthers did not win this Stanley Cup, it would have been a disappointing loss because they were the better team. They felt like the team that were playing the more complete games. And they felt like the team that were just more on the front foot. And obviously, a big thing has to do with their physicality and their forechecking, which helps them do that. When I'm looking at Edmonton, I guess the plus side is for the Edmonton Oilers is that like there's probably one of the very few teams, right, that can win a game with literally playing 1 period of hockey, essentially. Yeah. They don't have to play a proper full hard 60 minutes because obviously with their superstars that were held quiet these last few games now, they're able to pop off at any moment, which is obviously a good thing and also a bad thing because at the end of the day, if you're making too many mistakes in the first 2 periods, per se, and you come back in the third, sometimes it's just too much to overcome. And with the Florida Panthers case, it's way too much to overcome.
Like we saw it. Like overall, like my reaction for the whole Stanley Cup playoffs, I think it was good, right? Outside of the conference finals, those were duds from both sides, which sucked. Yeah. But like the first round, second round, like we got really good matchups, right? Winnipeg, St. Louis, with St. Louis almost pulled off the comeback, which would have made Connor Hellebuck look kind of different when he won the Hart and the Vezina, right? We saw the Oilers make their comeback in round 1 and saw like, okay, yeah, this is a different Oiler team as well. Toronto and Florida second round was very entertaining. Of course, the Rantanen Bowl as well, right? And going back to Florida, to your point, as I mentioned, the Toronto series, we saw them being down 2-0. They won every series as the road on the sorry. They did not have home ice in any of the series as well, right? I don't know when the last time that happened. Like obviously it should be a while because that would be crazy for a team to do that. Maybe the St. Louis Blues. I don't remember. But what these guys have shown, right, at the end of the day, from top to bottom, from front office, ownership, all the way to their fourth line players, backup goalie, whatever the case may be, they know they have an identity. They play hard. They're able to come back whenever they do. Yes, when they take the foot off the gas, they'll get punished. If, for example, and it was shown in this Edmonton series, like you said. But like overall, like this Florida team, in my opinion, they're head over heels over everybody in the league. They're just way too good. Credit to Edmonton, right? At the end of the day, I got, what'd you call it? I didn't think they were going to make it to the Stanley Cup final this year as to how their season went on, how their first 2 games in the playoffs started. They got all the way here, and they gave Florida for the run of their money 3 overtime games, right? They easily could have been up 2-0 instead of me splitting 1-1 as well. They easily could have been down 2-0, to be fair. But at the end of the day, this Florida team, to me, is just way too good, and I don't think any team realistically could beat these guys in a best of 7.
And obviously, like now you're looking at it, the Florida Panthers, the rat nickname is obviously making sense. But here's the reason why the Florida Panthers are so good, right? One, like you mentioned, top through bottom, they're getting contributions, right? Their fourth line is like essentially almost as important as contributing to the team in some sort of way as their first line and as their goaltender. And each D pairing and each D man has been so impactful as well to this team. And the reason why they're so good, right? Because obviously of that camaraderie. But number two, they have an identity, right? And as simple as this, like this one thing I liked what Sportsnet announcer said about this is when your captain is winning the Selke Trophy, it just shows what leadership he has and what your team is basically built around. Because at the end of the day, Barkov, he is the best defensive forward in the NHL, but they have many more right behind him.
Bro,
when Reinhart,
he has line mate.
Exactly, Reinhart scoring 4 goals
and was a finalist.
Yeah, he was a finalist. Yeah, but Reinhart scoring 4 goals in a game clinching and also providing great defense.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't know the Conn Smythe winner, Sam Bennett. Literally, the only player to actually have like 15 goals in a Stanley Cup or lead the postseason in scoring without ever having a 30-goal season.
Yeah.
Right? And he's obviously contributed offensively and obviously defensively. We already know what he is. Brad Marchand, same thing. Matthew Tkachuk, when healthy, he was the same thing. And when he was healthy, he started cooking, right? And overall, like top to bottom, all of these guys are like that. And that's the identity, and that's what this team's about, and that's why this team is good, because they're together and they have their own play style, and they do that aggressively. Essentially, they're not going to hold back. Each player has obviously that identity, but they have their own element as well, and they encourage them to be all out and be themselves, essentially, as well as have that connection.
You know who deserves the credit? Of course the players do. Of course Paul Maurice
A lot of people deserve credit.
But you know who the main person deserves credit is?
Bill Zito.
And the reason why I'm saying this, last year they had players that won the cup that are no longer there. Like obviously they lost Stolars, right? But outside of like the goaltending side of things, they lost OEL. He's able to find diamonds in the rough. OEL was bought out by the Canucks. He goes to Florida. He resurrected himself, had a good year with Toronto as well. But he was especially in the early part of the year, the regular season last year, he was a key contributor for them, right? You go out and replace him, you get Nate Schmidt, who got to hold the cup second, right? For a veteran guy,
who resurrected his career.
After getting bought out by the Winnipeg Jets, right? So you got Nate Schmidt there. Then you go out and you see issues that are happening, right? We already talked about how Sam Bennett, you pounce on that. You go talk about Sam Reinhart, you pounce on that. Who did you pounce on this year? Probably the greatest deadline day acquisition ever in Brad Marchand. All right, what else do we need to fix this team up? Oh, let's go get Seth Jones. People forgot about how good Seth Jones was. There's a difference between being overpaid and shit because you're not living up to the value. Seth Jones at the end of the day wasn't a bad team. Yes, it's his fault. He signed a contract there. I'm not blaming anybody but himself for that. But Seth Jones is a damn good hockey player. And yes, he may have been overpaid. I get that. But when he came to a perfect situation, he was their leading guy in ice time, and leading the team in minutes of ice.
I'm going to correct you on one thing, bro. Yeah. It's not one of the best trade deadline acquisitions they had. They're two of the best trade deadline acquisitions because
Jones was not on the trade deadline day.
That's fair. But like at the end of the day, these guys find a way once again to have one of the best acquisitions because you lost Brandon Montour, right? Your best puck moving defenseman from last year.
Yeah.
You bring in Seth Jones for that. You already said the Nate Schmidt for OEL, kind of similar story, bought out. They're able to play their role. The thing with Seth Jones is, yes, overpaid. That doesn't mean you're necessarily garbage.
Yeah.
But you got to be, on all honesty, he wasn't playing good at the end of the day. He wasn't playing at the level that Seth Jones, at once was during Columbus or had the hype of when he was in the draft time. And Seth Jones, when he came to Florida, said he had to, at the end of the day, be himself, but had improved some parts of his game and, break apart, get the fundamentals down. Essentially, I guess, he and the coaches and the Florida Panthers and the organization helped him, I guess, redefine his game and still allow him to be Seth Jones. And that's why he was so good. And on the power play, he was so good offensively. But then we saw his defensive game was so good. And that's the reason why he was. That's the reason why he was playing 25 plus minutes a night.
And what helped him was because he got the ice time because Ekblad had that 25 game suspension, right? Then Ekblad had the suspension in the playoffs as well. So he got a bigger role and it worked out for him. Yes, I agree with you. Like he did not perform well at the end of the day. It was Chicago. No one was motivated there as well.
Yeah.
Again, I don't blame anyone but himself for.
But at the end of the day, like that just shows you how good the Florida Panthers are at just like getting the best out of players. Because at the end of the day, Seth Jones was gonna be a problem for the Chicago Blackhawks. No matter how good he was playing, that $9.5 million was gonna be a problem. The Florida Panthers found a benefit for that. OEL was gonna be a problem for the Vancouver Canucks. Florida Panthers found a benefit from that. Same with Nate Schmidt. Florida Panthers found a benefit. They pounced on Reinhart. They pounced on Verhaeghe. They reestablished Forsling as one of the best stay-at-home defensemen in the NHL as well. So Sam Bennett, like the list goes on and on, because at the end of the day, they figured out a way to get the best out of each and every player and match that with their identity. And that's why they're here. And that's why Alexander Barkov is the first captain since Wayne Gretzky to lift a back-to-back cups on home ice.
So before we answer the question, are they a dynasty and are they going to be a dynasty? We mentioned Sam Bennett. So we got to ask the question. Is he the correct winner for the Conn Smythe? Because they had a lot of options. Like, we know the two main ones were.
Here's the thing, right?
Or three.
The Conn Smythe is the best player of the playoffs.
Yeah.
If it was the best player of the finals, my pick was Brad Marchand, hands down, right? I was going to pick Brad Marchand. But with the playoffs and him being a leading scorer of that, and obviously, if I'm going by the definition of the trophy, I believe Sam Bennett was the correct pick. Even though Reinhart had a shout after his 4-goal performance, Brad Marchand has a shout. Obviously, Tkachuk had a shout where he was like...
Tkachuk quietly put up a good playoffs, right?
And obviously, Bobrovsky's going to have a shout just because he's Bobrovsky.
And then obviously, like, from the losing side of things, yes, McDavid had a shout, but...
No, he didn't.
No, I said he had a shout at the beginning of the finals. And it kind of faded away. Yeah. And we'll talk about the Oilers in a sec as well. It sucks that Barkov did not perform well offensively in this finals, especially, which is fine because everybody else picked up the slack offensively. He was able to focus on defensively along with Reinhart. Reinhart got going as the series progressed as well. So I thought you were gonna go with Marchand, but I do agree with you. It was Sam Bennett. As soon as the finals started in the first couple of games, 13 goals on the road, also crazy. So yeah, like especially for a team that did not have home ice advantage, to do that as well, for me, Sam Bennett is the guy.
There's one last thing I want to talk about the Panthers before we move on to the Oilers, and I guess at the end of the day, paying a goaltender is well worth it, because when you're looking at it, great goaltending does give you success, and nobody can tell me otherwise. It doesn't mean you have to pay your goaltender, because when you're looking at the Vegas situation, Adin Hill, right? Everyone's looking at that. Adin Hill provided great goaltending. Right? Doesn't mean he was paid enough and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, he provided great goaltending. Darcy Kemper for the Colorado Avalanche provided great goaltending. Obviously, we already know Vasilevsky, Hopi, Bennington in 2019 was obviously insane. The Pittsburgh goalies, Corey Crawford for Chicago, Jonathan Quick, all these guys are like elite goaltending status. Yeah, and obviously, Sergei Bobrovsky's elite goaltending status. So at the end of the day, and I obviously this is going to transition to the Edmonton Oilers when I'm talking about goaltending as well, but like, you're going to have to invest in the goaltending, right? Because goaltending is, at the end of the day, very important to win. Because at the end of the day, even with the Adin Hill and Darcy Kemper situation, good goaltending still gave them the Stanley Cup, and along with all these other elite goaltenders I mentioned in their time when they won their cup.
It's becoming the running back of football again, where it's kind of getting resurrected a little bit. Before we go to the Oilers, do you want to talk about the Dynasty now, or do you want to tease it and close it off as the video at the end?
Well, let's talk about the Oilers, right? Because obviously, so like when you're talking about it, like obviously everyone laughed at Bobrovsky getting $10 million, right? Initially, and to be fair, he did a great job. He was a multiple time Vezina winner, and he was at that time one of the best goalies, but also somewhat inconsistent. Early Florida days didn't work, and now obviously he's a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. And now when you're looking at Edmonton Oilers, it just like, the thing is like, there's always one thing that's going to hold you back from picking them as Cup champions. It did last year, and it did again this year, is at the end of the day, the combo of Stuart Skinner and Pickard, it just wasn't going to get it done, right? And to be fair, both of them had good stretches in this playoffs and in last playoffs. right? But both of them, mainly Stuart Skinner, had also a very bad stretch as well. So that's kind of, at the end of the day, what is holding them back and what is holding us back as, I guess, fans and analysts and all that stuff, everyone, just to pick the Oilers, because at the end of the day, their goaltending is not getting it done for them. I can't blame them 100%.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Am I crazy to say that I can't fully blame them?
You're not crazy. You're not crazy to say that you're 100% can't blame them, but like at the end of the day, that is the main reason holding them back.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. They still got to the finals with that goaltending. Yes, they didn't win it, but how much of that is because it's Florida? Take away, like, obviously Florida has the goalie, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying how Florida plays as well, right? So, like, I'm not saying, like, I 100% agree with you, right? So they need to invest the goalie. I'm just playing devil's advocate in general here.
Because I could tell by your face you don't believe me.
I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate for the people that are thinking, like, listen, at the end of the day, they made it to the finals 2 years in a row. They were 1 goal away last year. They're obviously they're 2 games away this year. They were able to get it there. So how much can you say is it more Skinner or is it more how the team played ahead of him? Because at the end of the day, if you go back to game 5, right? The game he got pulled 3-0 down. Was it game 4? Sorry. Game 4. He got pulled 3-0 down. It wasn't, and we both said it off camera that it was not his fault. It was more so of a spark, which makes no sense to me that you could play well in front of Calvin Pickard but not Stuart Skinner, like you're treating like Stuart Skinner's like Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, or whoever else he is, right?
Here's the thing, and this is where the contradictory in the devil's advocate, in your devil's advocate take, right? That you don't believe, because at the end of the devil's advocate, we're trying to like relay all the scenarios.
Both sides, yeah.
But here's the take. Here's the contradiction in that take, right? You just described the inconsistencies of their goaltending. Because like you said, there's some games where it's not his fault, but there's some games that are all his fault.
The goal 3 in the final was atrocious today.
Right, like at the end of the day, it's the issue isn't like him obviously is not being his fault. The issue is that he's inconsistent, right? The thing with the Florida Panthers, obviously they've beaten everyone, right? And the Oilers are like have run the West 2 years in a row, right? You give them a lot of credit for that. You give their goaltending, because the reason why they were able to do that, because in the conference finals, Stuart Skinner stepped up and outplayed Jake Onger both times.
Yeah.
Right? In the semifinals, Stuart Skinner or Calvin Pickard, both of them were involved in the last 2 years against the Canucks and Vegas. Both stepped up and got him passed to the conference finals. And obviously, round 1, they were more atrocious. They're just the Kings' kryptonite. So, like, at the end of the day, the Oilers are just going to beat the Kings. That's how it is. But, like, the issue is the inconsistencies, right? The issue is when it's going bad, it will go worse, right? When you're looking at good goaltenders, right? Great goaltenders. Bobrovsky, for example, when the Florida Panthers are playing bad, right? Or / when Bobrovsky has given up bad goals and Florida Panthers are down, he's able to come back in the next period and not make it worse and keep the team in it, right? Whether he's playing bad or the team in front of him is playing bad. Oilers don't have that luxury, and that's what's holding them back, right? And at the end of the day, that's the number one reason holding them back. I'm not saying that they played good hockey in front of them or helped them out in any means, helped out their goaltending in any means, right? Because they were pretty pathetic, right, throughout the Stanley Cup final. But at the end of the day, the main thing holding them back is the goaltending, and you're gonna need to invest in one. It's just simple as that. 2
questions of the goaltending, because I don't want to make this a whole off-season video for Edmonton. 2 quick questions though. You can answer it quickly. Swap Adin Hill from the year he won the cup and Stuart Skinner. Does Vegas win the cup still?
I don't think so. Because Adin Hill made saves.
True.
Bro. Like Adin Hill made saves that Adin Hill shouldn't have been making.
That's fine.
I know Vegas was a great defensive team.
Yeah.
And obviously gave a lot of help to his goaltending. But Adin Hill made timely big saves. And that's what Stanley Cup winning goalies do.
All right. Question 2. What type of goalie do they need? Like, do they need to go out? Because at the end of the day, it's still there that no player over 10 million has, like, obviously 10 is the dot with Bobrovsky, has won the cup. Like, anyone who was paid over has not won the cup yet. What type of goalie do they need? Do they need a guy like Darcy Kemper was good for Colorado. Like, he was good before he even got to Colorado, in my opinion. I wasn't saying he was
he was solid, yeah. Like, he wasn't.
So, like, I think the best guy available right now is Jake Allen. Is he like? And he's
Jake
not
Allen's
bad.
Jake Allen's not bad, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be a
You
lateral
need a
move.
goal. Like at the end of the day, if the Oilers goaltending gets you about 910 save percentage, they'll probably win the cup.
Yes.
Right. So like, they don't need to go after. Like if they had Anthony Stolarz on this team healthy,
100%, yeah.
then they like when I say invest, they don't need to go 10 million is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, 100%.
Like obviously, if Demko becomes
You don't
available,
have that money either.
If Markstrom and Demko are going to be available the following year, right?
Yeah, like go
through
after
free
him.
agency,
It's
they
gonna
have
help.
to go. Yeah, they have to go all out for that. So that being said, though,
Like when you're looking at it, like Ottawa did a good move to get Linus Ullmark.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
Like at the end of the day, Demko's not expensive right now. He genuinely isn't. I know.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, his trade value is probably as low as has it been, and his contract is only $5 million, one of the better contracts. And when he's on his game, this dude is one of the best goalies.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there are options that you could get for cheap.
Via
so
trade,
there's really no excuse not to upgrade.
So that being said, though, what went wrong in this finals for them? Because their depth was really good. That diminished for them for the Oilers, right? Evander Kane was atrocious, right? They heavily missed Zach Hyman. Not because of the goal scoring aspect and that provide depth scoring. He was the leader in hits in the playoffs before he went down, right? So he was missed greatly for sure because of how physical the Panthers are going to be. So, like, for me, what do they need to do this offseason? Because at the end of the day, Bouchard's an RFA. He's going to probably get 10 mil. Cap's going to go up, right? He's probably going to get 10 mil. Let's
You
just
got to
be
pay
real.
McDavid in
Right?
the offseason as
You got
well.
to extend McDavid, right? And then you have... Yeah, those are the two big question marks for them right now. Obviously, guys like Corey Perry, I guess maybe do not bring him back because this guy cannot win the cup for the last 5 years in a row or whatever he made the final. But joking aside, though, are they gonna be back? Because they have their cap situation is gonna be crazy going into next year. They don't have a young team as well, whereas the Panthers do have young team. Their AHL teams in the final against the Abbotsford Canucks as we speak, and whereas the Oilers do not. They already lost Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg on offer sheets as well, right? So
Here's the thing.
Are you confident they'll be back next year?
Okay, there's a little bit caveat to my answer.
Sure.
I have some confidence that they will be back because the main reason is when you're looking at their path, there's only two teams in their way. One, Vegas, and two, whoever they face in the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference Finals, whether that be Colorado or Dallas, right? And at the end of the day, they've proven they can be in Dallas and handle them before, right? Colorado's a different story. We haven't really seen that matchup. Last time we did, Colorado Avalanche did beat
That was the greatest,
Oilers.
one of the greatest teams we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Colorado's not at that level anymore. And then again, Vegas, you could
They beat them
seeing,
this year.
You could start seeing their Vegas' age creeping in now a little
Yeah.
bit because they did not look as quick as they once were when they won the Stanley Cup. So when I'm looking at it right now, Edmonton Oilers, if you get, obviously you got to re-up Bouchard, extend McDavid, you do that, you're still, in my opinion, literally top three. But top three, maybe even number one in the West to come out of the West
But the
and
depth
make
is
that cup
gonna
final.
get hurt a lot.
But at the end of the day, like, to be fair, the depth is not the reason why they lost the Stanley Cup. Is because McDavid and Draisaitl went quiet, and the reason why they did that is because Barkov and Bennett and Reinhart and Kachuk
Mainly Barkov
exist.
and Reinhart, yeah.
And mainly Barkov and Reinhart, just because that's why they weren't so effective
Let's just say
offensively.
Florida exists, not even just those
But just
guys.
Florida exists. But like at the end, they led by Barkov because he is the best defensive forward in the NHL. And at the end of the day, you can't blame anyone else other than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, because at the end of the day, these are your big boys. These are your guys that's going to eat in your cap space, and these are the two guys that got to get it done. And right now, it's 2 years in a row. They did not. It just simply, at the end of the day, like, you give them a little bit of, I guess, a pass because like that was their first time making the Stanley Cup final. But there's no excuse for Connor McDavid to put up this type of performance in this Stanley Cup final, knowing that, one, you are the best player in the NHL and in the league, and number two, that your team heavily needs you to win because their depth pieces are effective when McDavid and Draisaitl are still going, right? The depth was still good because McDavid and Draisaitl were still feeding them when they were not scoring in this postseason. But that didn't even happen either because at the end of the day, they were shut down and they did not show up, and that's why they lost. And that's why they had no chance. And that's why Florida looked better throughout all 6 games, essentially.
I wouldn't say, okay, I'll say this much. Both of them were good game one. I would say the first 2 games, they were at home. The home games, they were fine, right? Like, we were still saying that.
Yeah, no, but it's going to take...
No.
You need 4 good games.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they started off pretty well, right? At the end of the day, yes, they're the two of the three best players in the world. You could say two of the top five, whatever. However you want to rank Draisaitl, that's up to you guys, right? We already know who number one is. At the end of the day, the way how the depth of Florida was set up, like it wasn't like it didn't start off with Barkov. I'm talking about offensively here. Barkov, Tkachuk even slightly, but like Reinhart, like they were a little bit slow to start the finals. It was Marchand and Bennett who led the way there, right? So you need somewhat depth. Like this isn't basketball where like yes, you still need to rely on these guys. I'm not denying what you're saying, but like yes, I 100% agree. McDavid was not McDavid. McDavid was still good. Like you would on any other team, this type of McDavid, you would want this type of McDavid still. But when it comes to when we've seen from Connor McDavid, the level we've seen him play last year's playoffs, this year's playoffs to start off, even like this year as a whole, it wasn't the same McDavid. Like to his standards.
Yeah.
This version of McDavid is an all-star, but the actual McDavid is a generational player.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that, right? They need that. The reason why the Florida Panthers depth is able to show up is because Barkov and Reinhart and Tkachuk don't eat into 50% of your cap.
Yeah.
Right? McDavid and Draisaitl, right, and now Bouchard are gonna do that, right? It's at the end of the day, we're talking about the kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs. You have the four players eating into your cap, and those four players don't show up, right? And or play to the level that they need to play for this team to, go somewhere. Because at the end of the day, if McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard are eating into your cap, right, by making 13, 14 million, right, and then Bouchard not being behind by like 10 million, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to play at a generational level to win and you can't really ask for help when you're making that much money. So it's on you. It's simple as that. All right. The Florida Panthers are able to have Brad Marchand and have Sam Bennett because Barkov and Reinhart and Tkachuk, especially Reinhart last year, didn't make 10 plus million.
But
right?
I could also say that the GM needs to find diamonds in the rough as well.
Yeah, you could do a better job, but at the end of the day,
drafting, whether it be drafting wise, whether it be whatever.
But you're looking at roster construction here, right? The reason why this roster construction works for Florida is because they are able to level out with their cap, right? Where their top players not making too much, right? Where they have to solely rely on their first line, but they're able to add. At the end of the day, having a great third line is vital to winning a Stanley Cup. It's literally been proven. So
it's not just
multiple times.
It's not just McDavid and Draisaitl.
But like that's the situation they're in, and that's how we got to look at it.
Because that's how you tire them out and they get.
Yeah, no, but like that's how you got to look at it right now, because that's the situation they're in, and that's what the Edmonton Oilers are, right? And they can't do much to get away from it because McDavid and Draisaitl are $14 million players, right? At the end of the day, you have to pay them that, because if those guys are gone, you're not going to have much of a chance either. So they're in that situation where when you have two of the top 3/5 best players in the NHL, they're going to have to play at a generational level. So that's where
now the goaltending investment is also going to be a little tight as well when it comes down to it.
But that's something that they got to figure out.
That's what I'm saying. The GM, so at the end of the day, I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying that McDavid and Draisaitl, how they should have finished the series of how they started. And again, a lot of credit for the Florida Panthers and how they played these guys, because even Paul Maurice, when it took us 3 lines to stop these guys, right? That's where if I'm the GM, I forget who it is, Stan Bowman now, right?
Yeah.
He needs to figure out to find players to take and credit to them. They did a good job up until the final. Like the depth pieces stepped up until the final. But now when it's the final is when you need Evander Kane to fill the role of Zach Hyman, right? He did not. He was a liability, taking dumb penalties and stuff like that, right? So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. Do I believe the Oilers can come back next year? It's gonna be tough. Like I'm more confident in Florida coming back than I am with the Oilers coming back, right?
100%.
With especially how the West is gonna be. But we'll save the Oilers offseason talk for later. But let's end off this video by this question about the Florida
Dynasties.
Florida Panthers are the dynasty, and how long can this last? And I'll start off with saying this. Yes, there are a dynasty, 3 cup finals in a row. They're starting the dynasty, right? As of right now, the only question marks they really have are to figure out Ekblad, Bennett, Marchand, Bobrovsky in a year or so. And guess who is their GM? It's Bill Zito. I have full confidence in that they could find a way to replace him. If Ekblad does leave because of the cap situation, guess what? You already got Seth Jones in, right? He could fill in that role.
Here's the thing. The Florida Panthers have sneaky cap space right now.
Yeah.
Where they could probably bring back...
Sam Bennett's probably coming back.
Like the Florida Panthers have sneaky cap space where they could bring back Bennett and Marchand and obviously I guess, try to find a way to re-up Bobrovsky in a
He's
year.
gonna
But
get a cheaper
that
contract,
yeah, but like that's next year stuff. I'm just worried about coming back next year. Do I think the Florida Panthers will be back? Yes, because of that sneaky cap space. Do I think the Florida Panthers are a dynasty? Yes, because you were in the Cup final 3 times in a row. Matthew Tkachuk has never not played in the Stanley Cup final in a Panthers jersey, right? That just explains how crazy that is. And overall, this core is not like they're 35 and plus, right? Like they're in their late 20s, early 30s, legit prime years. Their main players are, and they have years left, and they have great years left. So they're not going anywhere for some time, right?
Yeah.
They're just genuinely not. Like at the end of the day, I know the Tampa Bay Lightning haven't made it back, right? Ever since they lost to Colorado, but they haven't really gone away in terms of.
But they were also more of an aging core.
And they're also a more aging core, yeah, for sure. But when you're looking at it, the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, are in a better spot than that.
And
Tampa
if you look
Bay
at the
Lightning.
competition in the East as well, like yes, the only team you're really scared of is the teams in your own division.
Really, yeah.
And
Metropolitan
Toronto
is
still
not
needs to
great.
get over the hump. We'll see what happens in the offseason with them.
Like, I think
and Tampa, like the Metro,
like to be fair, like when you're looking at it, Tampa Bay could be back in the finals because obviously they played Florida in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, this Tampa Bay team is still good, but when you're looking at it, the Florida Panthers in this situation, I believe at this time are still in a better spot than the Tampa Bay
And you
Lightning
have
are. So that's why I just have much more confidence that they will be back and they'll continue doing this because they, at the end, their main players are still there and they still have many great years left.
And this is a team like, hey, Jonathan Taze is available. He might come in here and do some stuff, right? Who knows, right? But at the end of the day, like, listen, are they dynasty? Like, to finally wrap up the video, yes, they are a dynasty. Are they going to be an upcoming dynasty still? I 100% agree with that. They don't need to make the finals next year, as long as they make the finals a year after, let's just say, and win again, right? That's how dynasty doesn't mean you have to make it every single year. It helps with a case like that. Like the Blackhawks were a mini dynasty themselves, 3 cups in 5 years. I would call that, or 6 years. Sorry, yeah. I will give that a dynasty, right? So at the end of the day, this Florida Panther team, congratulations. You guys are Stanley Cup champions once again. You guys are a wagon. You're going to be the team to beat. No one is close to your level in our opinion because we both agree with that. So we'll see how long this ship will last. But once again, make sure you guys check out a video popping up right now. Like the video, subscribe. Comment down below what other videos like to see. We're officially in off-season mode. Which team videos would you like us to talk about? Once again, click on the video that's popping up and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.